The king tore his robes. Imagine that scene, the weight of despair. The king, a figure of authority and strength, now reduced to a state of utter helplessness. His robes, symbols of his power and dignity, now lie in tatters. This act of tearing his clothes is not just a gesture of personal grief, but a profound expression of the collective agony of his people. The city he once ruled with pride is now a smoldering ruin, its walls breached, its streets filled with the cries of the wounded and the dying. The air is thick with smoke and the stench of destruction. The king's despair is a mirror of the city's devastation, a poignant reminder of the fragility of human power in the face of divine judgment. The king, overcome with grief, rips his own clothes. His heart is heavy with sorrow, his mind tormented by the images of his beloved city in flames. He can hear the distant wails of his people, the clashing of swords, and the roar of the fires consuming everything in their path. Each tear in his garment is a cry for help, a plea for mercy, a desperate attempt to make sense of the chaos that surrounds him. The once proud ruler is now a broken man, his spirit crushed under the weight of his people's suffering. "We are doomed," he cries. His voice echoes through the empty halls of his palace, a haunting reminder of the fate that has befallen his kingdom. The walls that once stood as a testament to his power now crumble around him, and the throne that once symbolized his authority is now a cold, empty seat. His cry is not just a declaration of defeat, but a lament for the lost glory of his reign, a mournful acknowledgement of the end of an era. Jerusalem, once mighty, now faces utter destruction. The city that was once a beacon of hope and prosperity is now a desolate wasteland. Its grand temples and palaces lie in ruins, its streets are filled with the debris of war, and its people are scattered and broken. The once vibrant markets are now silent. The laughter and joy that once filled the air are replaced by the sounds of mourning and despair. The city's fall is a stark reminder of the consequences of turning away from the path of righteousness. This is how the Book of 2 Kings begins. It is a story of a nation in turmoil, a kingdom on the brink of collapse. The book chronicles the rise and fall of kings, the battles fought and lost, the alliances made and broken. It is a tale of power and betrayal, of faith and doubt, of hope and despair. Through its pages we see the hand of God at work, guiding and shaping the destiny of his people. A nation teetering on the brink. The people of Israel and Judah are caught in a cycle of sin and repentance, of rebellion and redemption. Their leaders are often corrupt and misguided, leading them astray and bringing disaster upon the land. Yet amidst the chaos, there are moments of incredible faith and resilience, of individuals who stand up for what is right and just, who seek to restore their nation to its former glory. It's a story of chaos, of betrayal, of the terrible price of turning away from God. The people of Israel and Judah face the consequences of their actions, their cities destroyed, their people taken into captivity. Yet even in their darkest moments, there are glimmers of hope, of God's enduring love and mercy. The Book of 2 Kings is a powerful reminder of the importance of faith and obedience, of the need to stay true to God's commandments. But even in the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. Amidst the ruins there are stories of redemption and renewal, of individuals who rise above their circumstances and find strength in their faith. These moments of hope are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of faith to overcome even the greatest of challenges. Moments of incredible faith and powerful reminders of God's enduring love. These stories inspire us to hold on to our faith, to trust in God's plan, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart. They remind us that no matter how dire our circumstances, there is always hope, always a chance for redemption and renewal. This is a journey through the final days of 2 kingdoms, Israel and Judah. It is a journey filled with lessons and warnings, with stories of courage and faith. As we explore the pages of 2 Kings, we are reminded of the importance of staying true to our beliefs, of the need to seek God's guidance in all that we do. It's a story filled with powerful prophets, wicked kings, and the ever-present hand of God. The prophets serve as God's messengers, calling the people to repentance, warning them of the consequences of their actions. The kings, often driven by their own desires and ambitions, lead their people astray, bringing disaster upon the land. Yet, through it all, God's hand is at work, guiding and shaping the destiny of his people. We see miracles that defy explanation. These miracles serve as powerful reminders of God's presence and power, of his ability to intervene in the lives of his people. They inspire awe and wonder, strengthening the faith of those who witness them. we witness the consequences of straying from the path of righteousness. The people of Israel and Judah face the wrath of God, their cities destroyed, their people taken into captivity. Yet, even in their suffering, there are lessons to be learned, reminders of the importance of faith and obedience. And through it all, we're reminded that even in the darkest hours, hope remains. The stories of two kings inspire us to hold on to our faith, to trust in God's plan, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart. They remind us that no matter how dire our circumstances, there is always hope, always a chance for redemption and renewal. This is the story of two kings, a story of faith and doubt, of hope and despair, of the enduring power of God's love. It is a story that continues to inspire and teach us, reminding us of the importance of staying true to our beliefs, of seeking God's guidance in all that we do. Our story begins not in Jerusalem but on the banks of the Jordan River. This river, a lifeline in the arid landscape, has witnessed countless moments of history. Today it stands as the silent witness to a pivotal moment in the lives of two prophets. The great prophet Elijah, his time on earth coming to a close, is about to be taken up to heaven. Elijah, known for his miracles and his fierce defense of the faith, has reached the end of his earthly journey. His departure is not just a personal transition but a significant event for the people of Israel. Elisha, his loyal servant, walks beside him. Elisha has been with Elijah through thick and thin, learning from him, assisting him, and preparing for this very moment. The bond between them is not just that of a teacher and student, but of a father and son. "Ask, what can I do for you before I am taken?" Elijah says. His voice carries the weight of impending departure, but also the hope of a legacy continued. Elisha asks for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. This request is not for personal glory, but for the strength and wisdom to lead the people and continue Elijah's mission. Elisha understands the enormity of the task ahead and seeks the divine empowerment to fulfill it. Elijah knows this is a big request. He contemplates the gravity of what Elisha has asked. The mantle of a prophet is heavy, and a double portion means double the responsibility, double the trials, and double the faith required. "You have asked a hard thing," he says. Elijah's response is measured, acknowledging the difficulty of the request, but also recognizing Elisha's readiness to take on the challenge. But if Elisha sees Elijah ascend, his wish will be granted. This condition is a test of Elisha's faith and focus. It is a moment that will define his future. Suddenly the sky is filled with fire. The heavens open up in a dramatic display, signaling the divine intervention that is about to take place. A chariot of fire, drawn by horses of fire, appears and separates the two prophets. This fiery chariot is a symbol of God's power and glory, a fitting vehicle for Elijah's ascension. Elijah ascends in a whirlwind. The whirlwind, a powerful and uncontrollable force, represents the divine nature of Elijah's departure. It is a moment of awe and wonder as the prophet is taken up to heaven. Elisha is left behind, picking up Elijah's fallen cloak, the mantle of his power. This cloak, a simple garment, now carries the weight of Elijah's spirit and mission. By picking it up, Elisha accepts the responsibility that comes with it. With that act, Elisha steps into his destiny. He is no longer just a servant. He is now the prophet of Israel, chosen to lead and guide the people. He is now God's chosen prophet. Elisha's journey is just beginning, but he is ready to face the challenges ahead with faith and determination. He tears his own clothes, a sign of grief, but also a symbol of his commitment to carry on Elijah's mission. This act of tearing his clothes is a profound expression of his sorrow for Elijah's departure, but also a declaration of his readiness to embrace his new role. The journey is just beginning. Elisha's path will be filled with trials and triumphs, but with the spirit of Elijah upon him, he is prepared to lead the people of Israel into a new era. Elisha, armed with God's power, performs miracles that echo those of his predecessor. He parts the waters of the Jordan River. He purifies a poisoned spring. He even multiplies a widow's oil to save her sons from slavery. But Elisha's miracles are not just spectacles. They are signs. They are warnings. Through Elisha, God speaks to the kings of Israel and Judah. He warns them of the consequences of their wickedness. He tells them to turn away from idols and return to him. But their hearts are hardened. They refuse to listen. The kings and the people continue down a path of idolatry and sin. They ignore Elisha's pleas, just as they ignored the prophets before him. They are blind to the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. The warnings were not heeded. The consequences, as always, were severe. In 722 BC, the Assyrian army, a ruthless and powerful force, swept across the land. They laid siege to Samaria, the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel. For 3 years the city held out, but the Assyrians were relentless. The walls of Samaria finally crumbled. The city was overrun. The Israelites, defeated and scattered, were carried off into exile. Their once proud kingdom was no more. The fall of Israel was a turning point. It was a stark reminder of the cost of disobedience, and it cast a long shadow over the remaining kingdom of Judah. In the southern kingdom of Judah, a glimmer of hope emerged. Hezekiah, a young king, took the throne. Unlike his predecessors, Hezekiah was a righteous man. He trusted in God. He tore down the idols. He cleansed the temple. He led his people back to the path of righteousness, and God blessed him. When the Assyrians, emboldened by their conquest of Israel, threatened Jerusalem, Hezekiah stood firm. He refused to bow to their demands. He placed his trust in God, and God delivered. In a single night, an angel of the Lord struck down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. The mighty army that had never known defeat was decimated. Jerusalem was saved. Hezekiah's faith had been rewarded, but the story of Judah was far from over. Hezekiah's reign was a bright spot in a darkening time, but his successors did not follow his example. Manasseh, his own son, plunged Judah back into idolatry. He rebuilt the altars that Hezekiah had destroyed. He embraced pagan practices. He even sacrificed his own son in the fire. Manasseh's wickedness surpassed even that of the kings who had come before him. His reign, the longest in Judah's history, cast a long shadow. God, angered by their disobedience, declared that he would bring destruction upon Jerusalem. The fate of Judah seemed sealed. The consequences of their actions were about to catch up with them. The warnings once again went unheeded. The Babylonians, a new power rising in the east, marched on Jerusalem. They laid siege to the city, just as the Assyrians had done to Samaria a century earlier. This time, there would be no miraculous deliverance. For 2 long years, Jerusalem held out, but the Babylonians were relentless. Finally, in 586 BC, the walls were breached, the city was sacked, the temple, Solomon's magnificent temple, was burned to the ground. Thousands were killed. Tens of thousands more were marched off to exile in Babylon. The kingdom of Judah, the last vestige of a once great nation, was no more. The story of 2 Kings is a tragedy. It is a story of disobedience, destruction, and exile. But even in the darkest moments there are glimmers of hope. One such glimmer comes in the final chapter. Jehoiakim, the last king of Judah, had been imprisoned in Babylon for 37 years. Then, something remarkable happened. Evil Merodach, the new king of Babylon, showed him kindness. He released Jehoiakim from prison. He gave him a place at his table. He treated him with respect and honor. This act of mercy, a single act of kindness amidst the ruins, offered a hint of something more to come. The book of 2 Kings is a stark reminder of the consequences of turning away from God. It chronicles the downfall of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, painting a vivid picture of what happens when a nation forsakes its divine calling. The narrative is filled with tales of kings who led their people astray, choosing idolatry and injustice over righteousness and faithfulness. It is a story of judgment and destruction. The relentless march of foreign armies, the burning of cities, and the cries of the oppressed echo through its pages. The people of Israel and Judah faced the dire consequences of their actions, as their cities were laid waste and their temple, the very symbol of God's presence among them, was destroyed. But it is also a story of hope. Amidst the ruins and despair, there are glimmers of light. The sunrise over the ancient ruins symbolizes the dawn of a new beginning. The hopeful expressions on the faces of the people remind us that even in the darkest times, there is always a possibility for renewal and restoration. The small plant growing in desolate land is a powerful symbol of resilience and the promise of new life. Even in exile, even in captivity, God's love for his people never wavered. The comforting embrace among the captives signifies that God's presence was still with them, offering solace and strength. The story of their captivity is not just one of suffering, but also of God's enduring commitment to his covenant with his people. This theme of redemption, hinted at in the release of Jehoiakim, finds its ultimate fulfillment in Jesus Christ. Jehoiakim's release from prison is a foreshadowing of the greater liberation that Jesus would bring. Jesus, with open arms, represents the ultimate act of redemption and the fulfillment of God's promise to his people. Jesus, the descendant of David, the true king of Israel, would ultimately offer the hope and salvation that the people of Israel and Judah had long awaited. The lineage tree connecting King David to Jesus underscores the continuity of God's plan through the ages. Jesus teaching a crowd signifies the imparting of divine wisdom, and the crown and cross symbolize his kingship and sacrifice. He would pay the price for their sins. The image of Jesus on the cross with nails in his hands is a poignant reminder of the immense sacrifice he made. This act of selfless love was the ultimate atonement for the sins of humanity, bridging the gap between God and his people. He would offer them forgiveness and new life. Jesus extending his hand symbolizes the offer of grace and redemption. The scenes of people embracing in forgiveness and the baptism signify the transformative power of accepting Jesus' sacrifice, leading to a new beginning and a restored relationship with God. The story of 2 Kings may end in tragedy, but it also points us to a greater story, a story of hope, redemption, and God's unfailing love. The contrasting images of tragedy and hope, the ruins under a bright sky, and the symbolic representation of God's love through Jesus, remind us that even in the midst of despair, there is always a promise of redemption and a future filled with hope.